Hello, I saw Jack Striker's video on public order gloves, which is one of those sort of funny UK double think sort of newspeak words, which mean public order. What does it mean? Riot, police, beat you up gloves. And I wanted to get some of these because he did a video on them and I thought they looked really good. And they're one of those things that, yeah, if you get them brand new, they're very expensive, but like most surplus things, you can find second-hand ones in very good condition, normally for like £20 to £30 rather than paying 75 to 100 for them new. So I wanted public order gloves for a few reasons, or just a really decent pair of gloves for a few reasons, because I've got some really good fingerless gloves, but the issue with those obviously is that they are fingerless, so you know all the problems you have with fingerless gloves. So one of the reasons I wanted them is obviously keep your hands very warm. They certainly do that. You could use them as motorcycle gloves. Protection to the hands, a very obvious one. Thought about that as well because lots of people were saying in the 28 days video I did, 28 days later video I did, that you'd need something to protect your fingers, because I had fingerless gloves on, that if you get bitten or scratched on your finger you end up getting infected. So yeah, I thought that's a good point. And I just wanted some gloves as well that would be really good for holding a sword with, because I've got a couple of swords and I'll demonstrate that in this video. And when you hold them with your actual hand, if your hand starts to get a bit damp or sweaty, quite often your hand will start sliding along the grip, which isn't what you want if you're holding a sword. So you're not going to really have that problem with these. So they're more gauntlet style gloves than anything else. They're quite, big and chunky. What they'll have is, I don't know how well it'll show up in the light, but you've got like the ridges along the fingers, along the knuckles, and then all along it. And this is like the sort of stab-proof, knife-resistant and reinforced panels. I wouldn't say they're stab-proof, but they're certainly stab-resistant. So just to show you it, if I open this one, there's a little Velcro bit where you can get at the insides. Then in a pouch, what we have is this. It looks a bit like a coaster, doesn't it? But that's coated with something like polycarbonate on that side, and then it's foam to absorb insulation, shock insulation. So the foam side goes towards your hand, the plasticky kind of whatever that is side goes towards the glove. So I've noticed that even with the UK ones there's a few variants of these. Some of them have like different things, some of them have like 3 strips down there, this one has 1 single plate. So they're not all the same. They've probably changed the designs over the years for these, but anyway, let's get one on. It's a pretty snug fit for me. I had to find one close enough to my size, because what I had to do to measure these was you have to measure across your hand like that with a tape measure, and then the amount of inches is what size you go for with these. So mine were about 7 to 8 inches across like that, so I went for 8-inch gloves, and these are very snug fit, very, very good, so that's great. So yeah, I can't complain about that. So let's get them both on, and then we'll have a look at what's in the glove. Well, my hand's in the glove, but what the glove is comprised of. So there you go. They're a bit like sort of almost falconer gloves, aren't they, these? The nice thing is you do have very good finger and thumb control in these. You don't have the reinforced panels on the end of the thumbs and fingers, just to point that out. But the whole glove is made from pretty good leather. And then you obviously have the reinforced panels along it. So if you were to punch with this, as you can see, you have a reinforced panel on your knuckles, so that would do quite nasty damage to somebody if you punch them. These gloves are kind of double purposed. One purpose is obviously if you are using these gloves, they protect your hands and wrist from impacts, either knife impacts or sort of blunt force trauma. But the other obviously thing is if you were to punch with them or whatever else, you are going to do a lot more damage than with your regular fists, partially because you won't actually be feeling it as much. So I said public order gloves. What that really means is obviously beating up the public for the police. But yeah, they're good things. As I said, you could certainly throw a punch quite well with these. You can't really wear them with a watch on, just to point that out. You could probably get a thin watch under them, but obviously I think that might defeat some of the point of the shock absorbency and everything else. But yeah, so that's what they look like underneath. They don't have a specific grip surface on, but you can grip stuff fairly well. Then this side you've got all the reinforced panels across the sections. Apparently these work well as motorcycle gloves as well. I'm not sure if I already said that. They do up just with a Velcro strip on each bit, but they'll sit fairly tight even if you don't do that Velcro up, because around that section of the wrist is where most of them will go on. As you can see, they're not going to really fly off my hands even if I do stuff like that. I can feel my hands moving about in them ever so slightly, but you know, I don't lose the finger positions or anything like that. So let's give them a quick test. I don't really want to punch a wall or damage anything in the house, but just out of interest, yeah, I can feel that. Hurts my knuckles, but nowhere near as much as if I actually, you know, did it with my hand, so they do absorb shock fairly well. You can probably see there that, maybe you can see on the thing, part of like the leather colourings come off, because on the door there's actually a mark there now. I don't know if that's going to be obvious on camera, but let me see if I can just show you it. There we go. If you see that black mark there, that mark there was not on the door previously. So that has impacted a bit of a mark there. So yeah, they certainly work in that regard. But yeah, you will feel it. They're not like full-on boxing gloves in terms of shock absorbance, but you know, that will certainly protect your wrist and it would, knuckles and everything else, and it would do a lot more damage to the other person obviously than you. So what I'm going to do now is do a knife test with these and even a sword test, just to demonstrate how good they are. I did that yesterday and I've still got a hand, so it obviously works, but I'll just do it on camera just so you can see it. Alright, first the cut test. Let's see if I can actually flick this open. Not very well with these gloves on, but as you can see they're a bit bulky for handling it, but right. As you can see, I'm not slicing my arm open doing this, so that works quite well. As for stab protection, obviously I'm not going to stab this super hard. But as you can see, I'm not getting penetrated by the knife. Now obviously the bits between the panels are not going to give you that level of protection. You can see where there's actually surface marks on that glove now, where the knife's been hitting it, but the knife has not managed to go through. So if somebody's slashing at you with a knife, you could certainly block knife hits with that glove quite well. So yeah, these are very good. If you didn't have any other option, you know, you could at least put your hand up to shield you from a knife blow or something coming in like that. Somebody's slashing crazily with a knife, you can at least put your arm up to block, and you're probably going to have a lot more of your hand left once you've disabled the attacker than you would have done if you'd have just used your bare hand like that. So yeah, against knives, these work, and yes, this knife is sharp and does actually cut things normally. So yeah, in terms of that, these gloves do give very good slash protection and a bit of stab protection from knives. If you had something like a Fairbairn Sykes knife, and that was, you know, absolutely hit, you know, dagger point in first, I think that would penetrate the panel. But yeah, in terms of casual stabbing and, you know, quite frenzied slashing, I think they would hold up fairly well against that. But anyway, let's get something a bit nastier out than a little knife to test the protection of these gloves. So, the falchion. So I've done a few videos on this recently, but as you can see, if I'm holding it in the gloved hand, it's not really slipping from my grip at all. It's staying quite well on there. Depending on how loosely or how tight you grip it will affect, you know, how much it moves. But with these gloves on, you can at least hold a sword properly, which is something, as I said, I think Jack mentioned in his video, and it was something I was quite keen on getting gloves for holding swords, because as I said, the problem even with a good leather grip on the sword is that if your hands get a bit sweaty or it's damp or whatever else, you can't hold them as well as you would. I think for actually holding a sword really well, you'd want slightly thinner gloves than this, with a kind of slip thing these don't have on them. But yeah, the reason you want to see this is because of this reason. Yeah, pretty impressive. Now, let's look at the material. You'll be able to see that there's certainly indent lines, maybe a slight bit of cutting into the material, but I've still got a hand. Even though I'm not swinging it massively hard, if I was to do this to my hand with no glove on, there wouldn't be a very good working hand left after that, because obviously this is a cleaving sword. Obviously, as you'd expect, it's not really dulled the edge too much or anything. Out of interest, if I was to run it across the glove like that, even the underside is fairly good material for not slicing open by doing that. But, you know, I wouldn't want to ever do that to my hand, just doing that with a sword. If I'm to draw it across here, yep, you can certainly see a cut mark on there. How well that shows up on camera I don't know, but the point is that yeah, I feel a bit of the shock through that. You wouldn't want to be hit by that, but the blade's not cut through. And yeah, you can hold a sword fairly well with this. So again, I'm not some master at using one of these swords, but nowhere even close to it. But the point is that you can hold on to the blades fairly well. You know, if a blade strike's coming in. Again, I don't really want to do it on this side of the glove because it's not got the protection on it, but still, that glove's going to hold up well enough that you're not going to get your hand sliced open. So the point I am making here, again, I'm not going to do this bit hard at all, but the point is that the gloves will give you fairly good protection, or very good protection actually, from an incoming swing. Because yeah, these are sort of the kevlar lined, or whatever they do with them, gloves to give you good stab protection with the glove. And the other point is as well, like I said, I wanted them for that you can hold swords quite well with these on, even if it's a cold day or a slippery, you know, wet day. These are good for holding blades with. So now we've established that you can hold a sword well with it. Let's just see if there's anything else I can, you know, have at the gloves with this on, and see how well they will hold up from impacts. The flail. Obviously you would never want to be hit by this, and I'm not going to hit myself particularly hard with it, but I am tempted to see what happens when this, you know, does this. Again, this isn't a wound up swing. I need to be really careful because it's very easy to then take this too far up your arm and hit something else with it, but bringing it across the hand like that, you know, does nowhere near as much damage as it would if you were to be hit with it. Normally, what I'll just do is hold that, the actual kind of mace head, and do that. When I was bringing it across, one of the hits went in between the panels, and I definitely felt that more than any of the other ones. If that was to hit that bit of the glove there, I can certainly feel the impact a lot more, but it's a much better protection than the standard glove would offer. But yeah, that is quite a good thing, and yeah, you can feel the shock from that quite well, as though it was a baton. What about this side? Yeah, that hurts, but it's much nicer than if you actually had it, you know, smacked across your fingers. What about the finger protection? The finger protection is actually very good there. I'm surprised that doesn't hurt more, but yeah. Point being, it seems to survive impacts. Now I do have an improvised truncheon or baton, which I'm just going to get out to do another test with now, and we'll see how well that does. Okay, so next up we have this, which is a totally improvised kind of bludgeon. What this was actually from is I'm in a panto group, or amateur theatre group, and we had this really good prop pole arm. It was like a big, you know, pike or halberd or something like that. I don't think the actual proper spear end on it was, you know, like an actual kind of direct copy of anything. But it was, you know, like a stage prop one. It's not an actual weapon. We needed to cut it down because when we were using it in the latest panto we did, I had it on stage. And when I held it like that, we were in danger of, you know, like knocking out all the ceiling lights, because the size of the pole arm was definitely, you know, too big. So one of our members sawed it off, and I think they were just going to really chuck this away, so I thought I might as well have it, because this is kind of, you know, like a baton, or a truncheon, whatever you want to call it. And in the UK, for whatever reason, we're not allowed batons, despite the fact you can buy maces and, you know, other stuff. It's because knee-jerk laws are really stupid. But anyway, that's a baton pretty much. So it's hardwood shaft, and at the end it's got leather wrapped around it and stitched, and then it's got these kind of metal bits in the end like that. The reason it's got the bits in the end, it's because when you're on the stage floor you could, you know, do that and make a bit of noise of it, and it obviously protects the pole a bit. But as you can see, this would be a very good baton. Obviously you could use it either way round, but I think you'd probably want to use this as the end you hit people with, as like a cudgel, whatever the word for it is. But yeah, how well does it work in protecting you? Let's see. Yeah, those absorb shock a lot. I still feel that in my hand. Let's have a look at what my hand looks like now I've hit it a few times. I'm hoping when I take the glove off my hand doesn't just disintegrate, but we'll see. Right. No real marks. There's a bit of pen on my hand. That's when I wrote on my hand yesterday, and it hasn't really washed off yet. But yeah, there's none of those marks. Out of interest, what happens if I... Yeah, I can feel that a lot more without even a wind up. If that was to go... Yeah, that really... Ah, fuck! Yeah. So, the point is that, you know, if you had an impact onto your hand like that, it would really hurt. With the glove on, you don't feel it anywhere near as much. So, the gloves do that really well. Now, another thing I want to test is how good are the gloves for trying to shoot a rifle with or hold a rifle with, because obviously some gloves like this are very bad if you're trying to use a rifle. So let's do a test of that now. Right, so let's have a look at my favourite rifle, the SLR, and let's see how well this would work for holding it and attempting to shoot it. So obviously I'm not maintaining trigger discipline in this video, which a few people get really weirdy about on a deactivated gun. It's deactivated, and I actually want to see, could I pull a trigger if this was a functioning firearm. So, let's get a cheek weld. I know that the carry handle's in the way, but I'm just going to do that for now. And look, I can actually squeeze off the trigger with a gloved hand on. That goes in there just fine. And can I manipulate the charging handle? Yes, I can. So, what we've established is this will actually work with most firearm trigger guards and things like that. Now, interesting enough with the SLR, which is a feature I didn't realise it had till a while ago, you can actually open up, as I've done there, a hinge, and that hinge allows you to wear thicker, like winter gloves when shooting an SLR. So there you go. I can do it with or without the glove section open. But the point is that these gloves are fine if you're manipulating a rifle or doing anything like that. You can, obviously, the important thing is get your hands into the trigger section. It lets you do that just fine. As you can see, I'm actually holding the trigger now like that. But if you had a gun with a really thin trigger section, it might not let you do that. Out of interest, let's just try it on a revolver and see what it's like on a revolver. But with a rifle, these gloves are absolutely fine. Okay, Denix Colt Single Action Army. This makes it a bit harder to hold normal because I can't fit all my fingers on the actual grip properly. But in terms of can I get my finger into the trigger guard, the answer is yes, but I start to partially pull the trigger by having my finger through the trigger guard. Anyway, let's see, can I... That's a bit of a problem, I'm going to have to take my hand out to at least cock it. In terms of aiming, yeah, I'd say it's not the easiest thing in the world, but you can actually at least, you know, shoot this. It would be slower to shoot than a real. I think obviously this is a replica, as I said, UK law. It would obviously depend how big the trigger guards are on the individual guns and things like that. If they're really kind of fiddly little small things, they're not going to work well with big gloves like this. But regardless, you can you know, actually shoot ones like this. So I think that's pretty much all the tests I want to do with these gloves. But I think we can come to the conclusion that these gloves are very good at impact resistance compared to if you were using the thing normally. They're good for punching because you can leave a mark on a door, not hurt your knuckles as much as if you're actually you know, properly punching. Again, you still do feel it through the glove. These aren't like proper boxing gloves, but they are certainly better than using your bare hands to do it. They give you very good protection from bladed weapons, as I think you saw with both the knife and the falchion. If I was to do that to my hand, I wouldn't have much of an arm or hand anymore, just doing that with a, you know, machete essentially. Machete sword. So yeah, these gloves are good. These gloves are very good. So big thanks to Jack Striker, because I wouldn't have even known there was a name for these unless you know, I actually saw them. If you're not in the UK, there is probably a variant that most nations have for their Riot Police or something similar. They might just be called Riot gloves, or I assume some sort of motorcycle gloves would actually be very similar if you were looking for something in terms of, you know, just comfortable motorcycle gloves for cold weather. My hands are very warm inside these. I know I'm in a house, but regardless, my hands are the warmest part of my body right now, and yeah, keeps them nice and toasty. So outside on a cold day, these would be very good gloves for keeping your hands warm. As I said, they're not, you don't have the finest finger control in the world of these. You wouldn't be able to type very well with them, but in terms of how comfortable these are, how good they are in terms of personal protection, you really can't beat gloves like this as far as I'm concerned for, you know, not hurting yourself while you're wearing them. So let's just see, can I pistol whip myself with the glove on? Again, I'm not really doing that full strength because I don't want to damage my gun on my hand, but the point we have come to with these gloves is that they offer very good protection. If you can get them for the £20 to £30 sort of price, not going to the full £75 to £100 for them, they are very good gloves. You know, they actually do give you slash and stab protection to a degree, unlike a lot of gloves that claim to do it, and you know, they give you very minor protection. Weapon Collector did do a video on some of the gloves that, you know, commonly advertised as, you know, like anti-cut sleeves, and you know, you got through them really quickly with a knife. Again, they're not designed to protect you from somebody wielding a knife. Apparently they're for like handling broken glass or something like that. But still, you know, I'd much rather, if I was handling broken glass, have a glove, you know, like this on. Especially, you know, what I was saying with that tactical pen, that when I was breaking the glass bottles with this, you know, shard of glass did cut my hand, but you know, this actually protects you from the impact of the tungsten tip quite well as well. Saying that, the tungsten really does mark that. You can see the tungsten things bigger than the knife marks on there. But yeah, in terms of protection, yeah, these are great. If you're thinking about getting them and you've seen them for like 20 to 30 quid price, yeah, get them. I have no complaints about these at all. These would definitely go in my like SHTF, RWOL, you know, kind of loadouts, because these are great gloves, and I might even wear these just out in cold weather, I think. They're really great gloves for what they are.